Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your host, Keegan. And today we have a guest speaker and awesome person, and that would be Carley Smith.
Hi.
So you sent me a paper, a little bit of a theory of yours. You want to
Mhm.
share on that real quick?
So, I, to start off, I'm a medium
Okay.
and I work in the spiritual community here in Amarillo, Texas. And I receive downloads all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Visions, however you'd like to call them.
Uh-huh.
Um, I received this particle theory, which is a fraction of the actual information
Okay.
that is comprised of like the structure of the universe, basically.
Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of
Fair enough. Do you think that Amarillo is like the best spot to really do uh all that and I'm asking just because I know that Amarillo is like the Bible belt, like belt buckle. Uh
mhm.
and I just find it great that there's actually someone there that is into this, and I know I am myself, and so it's really good to actually see that kind of community be there, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. There's actually a lot of us here.
Oh,
Um, we do house clearings, Reiki. A lot of people do card readings and stuff. It's pretty prominent actually. Well, in my social circle anyway.
I was about to say I just kind of lived underneath a rock, so that makes sense. And see, which my own deck.
Yeah, yeah. I have a whole like vintage chain case like right here,
Ooh,
and she's full
oh
of
wow.
cards.
How many decks do you got?
Um, I want to say under 20. So I also have some up at my office, like just in case.
Fair enough. Um, so with this particle theory of yours, oh, by the way, I like the plants in the background.
I have 62 houseplants.
What's it? 62? Like 6'2"?
Yeah, yeah.
Do they all have names?
Yes and no. They don't. I talk with my plants, and they don't always agree with what I call them. They're very opinionated, but it's allowed here.
I feel that. Uh, I need to go get my house plant. His name is Edgar. He's a Raven ZZ. Thought the name was a little fitting.
Nice. I want one of those so bad.
They're really cool. I like it a lot. Um, but real quick on that particle theory, whenever you say you kind of got it downloaded, how would you say to the layman like what that feels like, if that makes sense?
Right. So I'm a clairvoyant,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, the clairs, there are seven different kinds. So you can use like your different senses.
Oh, okay.
So I'm also clairsentient. I'm slightly clairaudient. Um, I also have claircognizance, but clairvoyance is my biggest one. So basically, if you can picture what you had for breakfast that day,
Mm-hmm.
or what somebody's face looked like during a traumatic event, and you can see that very clearly in your head.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically how I get my stuff. A lot of people
Ah.
confuse it as being their imagination, and it
Ah.
kind of goes hand in hand. So,
Huh.
yeah.
Okay. So you got the picture of the flower of life, correct?
Yes.
And you actually correlated it with uh nuclei, essentially, correct?
Hmm.
Yeah. Was there a specific one that you were looking at, like a specific molecule, or was that just
Carbon.
really?
Carbon is a huge one.
Huh.
So the way that I see it is with the flower of life, there's like petals and like the little in between triangle looking shapes.
Uh-huh.
And from what I received from this message was that, hold on, I have to like translate the images.
You're good.
Basically, like all of our molecules are held within those petals and those little triangle shapes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so whenever we kind of travel through those, you saw the Mario uh, deal. So basically, when this flower of life is turned into like a 3D form, whenever you play Mario, you're traveling through a flat screen,
Uh-huh.
not him moving. Um, so like whenever we move through this three-dimensional grid, to me is like the flower of life three-dimensional
Mm-hmm.
on a very small but very grandiose level. We have existence.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different layers to that. It goes along with sacred geometry, um, and it's like layered on top of each other. But so that's when I say like that this is a very small fraction of the big picture.
Uh-huh.
Me understanding this picture is very like exciting because I have like this new puzzle piece
Oh, that's a good
to
way to
me
look at
new.
it. Yeah. I mean, technically, everything is new, right? Because nothing is extremely static. And uh kind of like what you were saying, extremely small but also extremely grandiose. It makes me think of that term as above so below. And it also makes me think of like the earth as its own organism, because that's kind of what we associate it with, and a lot of people don't even seem to realize they do that because we call it mother earth or mother nature. And so we're our perception is that we're giving life to something that we don't understand, but at the same time, it's kind of like in the sense that magic, uh, from a technological standpoint, is just technology we don't understand, if that makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like,
No, I was literally having that conversation yesterday.
oh, really?
Yeah.
And I mean, but that's the thing, is that we are always trying to make sense of stuff. And I think it's kind of like that saying, we are the universe experiencing itself. And
Yeah.
so I think you getting that understanding of a new puzzle piece to work with is going to play into someone else's understanding, and then y'all build with each other, if that makes sense.
Well, that's where the collective comes in.
Oh, the collective consciousness, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, where whenever I'm here expressing all of this to you
Mm-hmm.
so that your listeners can hear, it sparks it like a thought,
Uh-huh.
if not plants a seed for thought later.
Okay. And so then everyone, it's not necessarily hive mind or mob mentality, but it's
Mhm.
like getting the world's best encyclopedia, right? Just
Yeah.
everyone kind of pulls on it. It's almost like the whole uh everyone knows like what an android or robot is, or as it was recently told to me, vampires. Like it became part of our collectiveness, is that a lot of people view vampires nowadays as something sexy and mysterious and like supernatural, but all natural at the same time, and it just makes people like drawn to it. But it became a collective thought that everyone associates vampires with those attributes. Uh, and so, with your flower of life, uh, where do you see yourself in that flower,
Um,
if that makes sense?
so I feel like, yeah, yeah. So when we're conceived,
Mm-hmm.
that structure of like cell division is life being born, if
Ah,
that makes sense.
uh-huh.
So we start off on this grid and we main like we're there for the rest of our existence. This is kind of like how you would express the term of like the universe experiencing itself.
Uh-huh.
It's like it gives life to itself so that it can experience itself. So whenever you say that, I have this visual of me with all of the lines outside of the petals, like
Uh-huh.
outside of that negative space. That to me, when I see it, is frequency. And I know there's a term for like frequency. hmm, I forget what it's called. Where you lit
Knots.
like where you can make images of sound.
Oh, no, man, I know exactly what you're talking about. Hang
Yeah,
on. uh, let me Google it. Uh,
yeah. So when we're on that plane of existence, starting out from the conceiving point, we start to divide into those cells and everything, and we're on this like everlasting road to cell division. And
uh-huh.
so like as we age, our cells change and grow and like kind of shed and grow up like grow new cells and like new cells, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Um like our bodies are ever changing and
Mm-hmm.
everything and also decaying at the same time. So like we're being slow baked over the course of like 80 years. And that has like an effect on our molecules.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so whenever we go through this grid, like today I did a house clearing and I do this thing called transmogrification, and that is changing something by the means of magic.
Uh-huh.
Um, and basically what I do is I strip those petals and I gather the energy through like energy manipulation
Mm-hmm.
where like you kind of bring it all in one spot
Yep.
and I transmogrify those into neutral particles basically because you can't destroy or create energy.
Correct.
So whenever you neutralize them, it can be used for something else. So I see it as me stripping these petals because if I'm walking right here in this spot, there has to be like a residue left behind in those petals.
Uh-huh.
So when we experience residual energy, it can become like something of a haunting, traumatic, like
Mm-hmm.
things happening and or in apartment complexes like I did today.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of energy in and out of those places.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah.
And yeah, with the hauntings, I have plenty of experiences myself, and it like you put it really well because that energy, like traumatic events, those are high energy uh situations and feelings. And oh, hi,
Mhm.
cat.
This is Mercy.
Ah.
She's all behold me.
uh, but yeah, you sit there and you leave an imprint And so
Mhm.
it sounds like a more scientific look at it would be you're taking cells and you're essentially creating stem cells, because those stem cells can become whatever they need to. And so that's kind of what you're doing in a sense, if we're going to look at it from a organic standpoint so that it's a little bit more understandable, because a lot of people, like you said, can't really picture the stuff that we can't like physically touch and see. Uh,
Mhm.
and so I think that's where people like you really come into handy with our worldview, like you said, with our collective, because then we get a perception that is different from ours, and we can relate it back to ourselves and at the same time back out, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it's like creating a tangible way to digest that for everybody else so that they can take it and learn it in the way that they learn, because everybody learns in a different way, just like everybody has a different clair.
Yes, that's one thing I really hate about our public teaching is that everyone has to
Oh,
learn the
it's
same
the
way.
whole Western thing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's terrible. Uh, someone actually was like, you know, our education is like way low, and they turned out to say that, like in Japan, they teach critical thinking. They don't
Hmm.
teach regurgitation of facts because uh, they want to keep us in a worker state. They don't want thinkers; they
Yeah.
want workers. So,
Oh
yay
yeah.
capitalism!
I was like, the whole capitalism system, they just want workers. They don't want us to like know our power, because
Mm-hmm.
then they wouldn't be in control.
Exactly.
Like, we wouldn't be these worker bees that they can just manipulate. But that's a whole nother conversation. That
Uh,
also has to do with like mental health,
yes, it
because
does.
people put it on the back burner because they think that all they need to do is live, work, and die.
Yep.
But fuck that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if I can cuss, but
It's okay. I'll find it. I can edit it. It's all good. um, but essentially, I think one of the things is that I don't know if this is all Western either. So correct me if I'm wrong. But it seems like a lot of people want instant gratification, instant satisfaction for things that they do. And so with physical things, you can get that. You can go, oh, hey, I have money. I just went and bought a fancy new car. Whenever really all that car is a status symbol and a drain on resources. And instead, you could actually go volunteer your time, and you may not see the fruits of your labor, but you're impacting someone's life, right? And so you're still putting good out, but because you don't get that instant little dopamine rush, it makes people kind of advertent to it because they don't reap the benefits right away. Does that
Mhm.
sound about right?
Well, so no, yeah, I'm a Reiki practitioner. I work on people, and I love yoinking the little divide that capitalism puts into them. Because like then they can be whole and
Mm-hmm.
realize that they've been whole the whole time, but the dissociation of having to go to work all the time becomes like a permanent part of us,
Mm-hmm.
not actually, but like temporarily,
Yeah.
until you realize that it's there. And so when I'm doing this work on people, in a way, I do get instant gratification because I can see relief.
Uh-huh.
But then other times, I always warn people that this is not for the faint of heart, because not everybody steps out of that comfort zone of being surrounded by material objects, which I'm a maximalist, but like also like I try and get everything from like the thrift store and like places that like don't encourage more things to be made.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like I love buying secondhand, and that's just like me. Technology's a little different. I love opening a new box, but I live in capitalist America.
Yeah,
Like, we're kind of conditioned to want that new shiny thing, and that kind
hmm
of goes back into that.
yeah, and I feel that, like you said, it can really affect someone's mental state. Uh, because whenever we're just sitting there and it's just go, 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 and you're not actually taking time to experience life, to take things in, to also love yourself, care for yourself, and all this other stuff that just eventually compounds and becomes this like spiritual tumor. Uh, I guess is a good way to put it. And so you're like going in there and you're going like, cut out that little spiritual tumor, and it opens up a gateway that people go, oh, hey, I forgot what it's like to experience life. And I think that's why a lot of people are actually searching for that childhood wonder that they used to have. It kind of got sucked out of them because you're 18. Welcome to the workforce. Your life's over, right? And uh I mean, would it seem right to say that some people are free spirited? Like they're born, and no matter what you do to them, they're always going to be quote unquote rebellious.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the strong-willed child, though. It's a book. It's really good.
Huh.
I have a 4-year-old, and she's an Aries, and we have such a toxic relationship because I'm a Taurus, and I'm constantly trying to ground her because she gets very manic, and I try and like talk her through it and everything and reground her, but she burns those roots right up. So it's a constant battle. But like I'm raising her in the sense that she can be herself. She can be chaotic and crazy. All I ask of her is that she mind me whenever we're like out in public because mom guilt is a thing and it's a whole thing. And I do not see that child's personality in any way dwindling, by my hand at least. So,
But is personality a bad thing, though?
no, it's not. I want her to have personality. I want her to critically think about things because, like, I don't want her to be this. Like, I know for sure she has ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody tries to give my kid medicine for that and not let her stand up at a desk or something because she just needs to stand up and move around,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm sorry, but we're going to have some words.
That's not a bad thing, though. I think a lot of people, especially the ones that were forced into the workforce, uh, I think they're always the ones that are trying to raise the next generation better, because
Mhm,
that is our perceivable future is the younger generation. So we have to help shape and mold them. And I think
mhm,
changing our mental health collective is a big part in that, is raising the kids better than you were raised, helped break those generational curses, if you will.
mhm. I will.
uh, so for those that don't know, could you explain generational curses as you understand them?
So, in a way that's like simply explained, we have cycles that happen over and over and over again.
Uh-huh.
Like, for example, mom and dad have kids super young because it's all they want intimacy. They wanted
Mm-hmm.
this, and so they're not taught how to like do things safely,
Uh-huh.
so they end up having a kid. Dad has to go to work, mom either has to go to work or stay home. Somewhere in there somebody starts doing drugs because they want to deal with the fact that they have to do this mind numbing task day after day.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever we get into that cycle, there's a level of abuse, there's a level of self neglect, there's a level of external neglect, and that becomes a cycle of generation after generation of this just happening. And
Mm-hmm.
like for me personally, I stepped away. I mean, I had my fun, don't get me wrong, but like, both my parents were on drugs, and I didn't want my kid to feel that level of abandonment.
Uh-huh.
And like, I want her to, she's going to have issues in this life. We're here to figure shit out. It's just a part of it. But I'm not going to let that be one of the things that she has to deal with. And so for me, that's me cutting that generational curse of neglect and abandonment and stuff like that. So if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I
And then
think
there's like more heavily spiritual generational curses, but that's like a little more witchy of a subject.
well, it is an open platform. The podcast is open. So if you feel like going into
um,
that, because anything that could be considered quote unquote a curse can be, well, negatively affecting someone, right? And
right. So I do have an example actually that's coming to mind.
okay, let's hear it.
So I know somebody who their little girl sees a lady,
Mm-hmm.
and kids are super perceptive to different planes of existence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, very beautiful woman, long hair, native. But she also has another form that she sees. She gets very scary and like crooked and everything. Yes. She made a deal to become a shapeshifter. And this is like a skinwalker kind of thing. Like, um, didn't say that out loud.
You're
But
good.
like she traded generations of safety spiritually to have that power.
Hmm.
So, in order for them to be free from that image and be able to set this person free selflessly and not be like harboring any type of resentment of that ancestor,
Mm-hmm.
simply like cutting that tie and setting that person free ends that generational curse.
Huh. Okay. Very interesting.
One of millions of examples.
I think that list would probably be infinite. I'm sure.
Yeah,
The story. I don't know if I want to actually put it on the radio, but it is something that uh, I'll have to tell you about because other people are like, "Oh
yeah,
no, like no," and I'm like, "I know what I saw," so
yeah.
it it's
Been
safe
there.
to say that yeah, I'm surprised I'm here, and I didn't even realize it until after the fact because I was just in the moment. I was like, "Oh man, those eyes are pretty cool," and then later I was like, "Oh wait a minute," and once I tell you the story, it'll make sense. But how, like, I don't know. Anyways, uh, um, so with all of that, man, there was something. Uh, it wasn't a tangent. It was going to go back to something. It might come back. That train is probably.
Oh yeah, we were talking about like generational curses
Mm-hmm.
and like the train of like capitalism
Oh,
and how that's a
um,
cycle.
oh man. Uh, okay. So whenever we're looking at ourself, um, and how you're saying that flower of life kind of comes into play with everything, uh,
Mhm.
and with that saying, as above, so below, there's something that other people know it as the law of attraction. So,
Mhm.
the self fulfilling prophecy, if you will, right? What you put out is what you get in. And
Mhm.
so what you put in is also what you put out, correct?
Mhm.
So do you think that for some people, uh, that just change your mindset really works on them, or do you think it doesn't?
So
Both.
I think that our thoughts can kill.
Ooh.
Like I think the things that we think about alone
Mm-hmm.
can really put us into this like okay, so like your cells, they are
Mm-hmm.
affected by your thoughts. When our cells affect the grid, it's like it tampers with that vibration. Um,
Oh.
so with the black lines of the petals and everything,
Uh-huh.
that to me, from what I understood, and totally like theoretical, um, but that to me is the vibration of authentic love.
Huh.
And whenever we have these feelings of anger, resentment, um, which totally stem from like a core emotion, it's just built up into like this like rage. But once we get to that point, if we don't pull that pulpit out,
Mm-hmm.
it continues to affect us. So if I'm angry about something, everything that I encounter is just going to enrage me more.
Ah.
Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
so whenever we go to the store and we encounter somebody who is also angry, it makes you think. Like it makes you think like, did I attract this person that is also angry and we both have like this simultaneous thing of I need to go to the store.
uh, what's that saying? Coincidence. Some people say that the universe is rarely that lazy, and some people say there's no such thing. Because
No, yeah.
I don't know about you, but there's been a lot of synchronicities in my life that make me go, yeah, I don't think that was coincidence. But that's also
Mhm.
my beliefs, my truths, if you will. And uh, so whenever you're saying you're angry at something and it just gets worse, and it's kind of like having a splinter that you never really get out. Either it festers or your body starts to reject it and push itself out, right? Uh,
Mhm.
so, do you think some of those negative mindsets actually can? Well, so not the negative mindset itself, but something on the inside, that authentic love you were talking about. Do you think that that can push out the anger by itself? Or is there,
I think that how do I put that?
however you want to put it?
I know. I have like so with me being clairvoyant,
Uh huh.
I have images and I translate it into words.
Uh huh.
And that's why like I'm kind of clairaudient because I will hear something in my visual center. Like
Okay.
it's like tele what
Teleprompter.
is it called? Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, well, maybe not. Oh,
But with images.
oh, not
Like it's like
telepathy,
telepath.
but different.
Uh yeah, or it's like where you talk to somebody via thought.
Oh, um, isn't that no? Oh, I know. Oh,
It's
okay.
like telepathic conversations.
Yeah, there's a different
Yeah.
word. I can't even think of it right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. So, um, dang, what did you ask me? I'm sorry.
So,
Everything started going so fast.
whenever you have that anger, and it's like a splinter, uh,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think that we're here to like learn these lessons sometimes they're really shitty lessons, and it's like, holy fuck, why do I have to go through that? Sorry.
You're good. You're good.
But pushing out this thorn is sometimes does it on its own
Mm-hmm.
through those life lessons. But when it comes to us removing those ourselves, you have to acknowledge that it's there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying, and I think a lot of people are not going to like hearing that because it's one of those hard truths, right?
Yeah, I'm a bottle of hard pills to swallow.
But you're entirely right because like whenever I was going through Nehemiah, it was if I don't recognize that there is something wrong, I can't fix it. And
Mhm.
the thing is, a lot of people don't want to like go through that. They don't want to sit there and say like, "Oh, there's a problem with me because it's everyone else. Everyone else is the
Well,
problem."
yeah, that's blame shifting though.
It is. Um, and one of the things that really sticks out those you said it takes that hard lesson to push it out. It's kind of like
Mhm.
the universe at that point knows like, "Hey bud, um you're kind of being a jerk for a little bit too long. Like here's a little nudge
Mhm.
to like get that out." But
Yeah, but sometimes they just get super irritated
mm,
and they're just like, why does all this keep happening to me?
uh-huh,
When a lot of the time it's like they'll try and venture outward and be like, this is everybody else's fault. But
uh-huh,
as soon as like I get that mindset, I'm like, wait, hold up. What's happening within me?
uh-huh,
Because I need to like do some identification and do some sorting with how I'm feeling and kind of really pinpoint where this thorn is because people will go. So I keep thinking of Futurama where they're in the Council of Robots and like Fry Leela and Amy, I think they're hiding in this giant robot's leg. And he's like, my leg feels funny. And then like you're just like going through life with your leg feeling funny and you're just like my leg feels funny, but my legs always felt funny.
uh-huh.
So until it like falls out and you're like, my leg feels better. Like a lot of the time people just go with that pain
Mm-hmm.
and don't realize that there's an existence without that pain.
Yep. It's kind of like having a toothache for too long. You just forget what it
Yeah.
was like to not have a toothache.
Or like when you're sick and stuffed up,
Yep.
like you forget what it's like to breathe normally.
Uh-huh. That's why the first day after not being sick just feels so great because it's like, oh, hey, like I'm not sick. Woohoo! But,
Hmm.
um, and I mean, I got the sniffles now too. Like,
I know my nose got all itchy.
um, uh, so with that whole my leg feels funny kind of thing and that blame shifting, uh, I th- and this is just a little bit of a perception that, or uh, maybe not a belief, but an opinion that can be like changed uh, with proper like other perspectives and whatnot. But that whole saying of getting outside of yourself, right? It's, in my opinion, it's kind of like you taking your mental eyes and going, all right, you're over here now. And so you can actually see yourself from a different perspective. You can
Hmm.
see the part that maybe is needing to be worked on. Or maybe you have that epiphany like, oh, that's what's wrong. Like, I forgot that I was dealing with this issue because I just buried it so far down that I'm standing on it. And then whenever you step off of it, it just kind of like moves its way back up, kind of like that splinter pushing itself out from the body. You get
Mhm.
out of the way of the problem and you can see the problem, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Well, and also I'm having this visual. Um, I'm not exactly sure how it ties in, but I'm gonna express it.
Go for it.
So imagine like being in water and
Mm-hmm.
you're submerged. You can't really tell where the surface is. It's kind of dark. The moon's out, so like there's some type of light, but like not really.
Uh-huh.
Something that I've always done to let that come up is to breathe out.
Hmm.
Because when we breathe out, we let those bubbles come out.
Ooh.
Um, and through breath work, I've been able to really get to the bottom of where that splinter is, where that, like
Uh-huh.
that issue is
Yeah.
really
I I really like that because yeah, uh breath work is something.
that issue is
Yeah.
really
I I really like that because yeah, uh breath work is something that I like to do and it does help. It does change my mental state, especially in the moment. Um
Mhm.
and uh what is it? It's the diaphragm is one of the only smooth muscles that we can go, oh, I want to control you real quick. And then you tell someone, oh, hey, you're now in control and conscious of your breathing. And everyone's like,
I know, right? Well, but like whenever you let that bubble go, it goes to the surface,
uh
and you're
huh.
like, oh, that's where I can go, and you start
Yep.
going.
Reminds me of if you're caught in an avalanche, they say to spit.
To spit, yeah,
Yep. Because then, oh, that's down. So you want to do the opposite of down. Um,
yeah, yeah.
uh, man, what was it? I'm sorry, my brain just goes like, "Oh, hey, that's."
No, actually, like in native culture, a lot of the times you'll see people spit
Mm-hmm.
because they're letting go of an angry thought, or like,
Oh,
does that make sense?
yeah, and uh, it's one of those like you associate something with something tangible, kind of like we were
Hmm.
talking earlier. So it's I have this, and now I spit, and so there it goes, right?
Hmm.
Uh, what is it? Actions follow thought, I think is the saying.
Hmm.
So, I think a lot of people. Okay, here's a question: with people and their mindset, uh, do you think their actual physical actions impact themselves more than they really think, or do you think that it's something on the subconscious level that's driving their actions that
Oh, okay, yeah.
you get what I'm saying?
So, yeah, yeah. So I heard something the other day that was like, no thought is criminal, but there are actions that are criminal.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we do something that is like from an outside perspective, very clearly coming from childhood traumas and like stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
that's a generational curse. That is like a generational curse that could start and stop with you.
Ah.
It doesn't have to be like this forever down the line kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. But whenever we do things, it's again realizing that you're doing it and being able to not change the past actions because we can't do that,
Uh-huh.
but changing your actions forward and becoming this living amendment of, I'm not going to do that again because I did that before.
Uh-huh.
And that was a very unhealed action.
Ah.
Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. And I don't know if um ooh, hang on.
I'm gonna go grab my water. I forgot it.
All right, go for it. So, uh, the tarot, right? Uh, have you heard of the Dreams of Gaia deck?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's super super pretty, and it's not your average deck either. So, I'm going to read the back of the box real quick, just so it kind of prefaces some of the cards, because I use this one for introspection all the time. Uh, and it is okay. The box says the philosophy of the Dreams of Gaia Tarot is simple: to seek, to feel, to grow, to heal. It will strengthen your connection to your divine self whilst helping you identify and heal past experiences that hold you back from living to your fullest potential. So, um, it's a
Sorry, my
bunch.
dogs.
Oh, you're good. Um, so there's, I think, a few more cards in this deck, but there's one that its meaning is, uh, I forget which one it is off the top. I think it's in the Major Arcana, but it is talking about all actions have a reaction. And so there's the past that you have to accept, because a lot of us, we want to change that past, but we have to accept the action that we you have to accept, because a lot of us, we want to change that past, but we have to accept the action that we did and the reaction that we're going to get from it. Uh, and so, with that, my question is, do you think a lot of people are not necessarily blame shifting, but that they are actually regretting the actions that they did? Or do you think they're just mad at the reaction that they got?
I think it's a mixture.
You think it's a mixture?
hmm
What would you say is the best remedy for that, if there is a best one?
So, living amendments, one thing.
Ooh, I like that one.
I think that whenever you're like, I didn't spend enough time with this person and now they're gone, or I wasn't kind enough to this person and now they're gone. Like for me, for example, I feel like I've been a a stinky friend before. Like I've not been the most healed version of myself at all times in the
Mm-hmm.
past. And so moving forward, I really want to make a conscious effort to be a better friend, to be a better person,
Uh-huh.
because the people in my life that I hold dear, they're in my ecosystem. Like people are like, "Oh, you're a snack." And I'm just like, "I'm sorry, honey. I'm a whole garden. If you come over here with like your Japanese beetle infested boots, I'm gonna whoop some tail because that affects my ecosystem,
Uh-huh.
and I'm very protective of the people I care about, and I want them to know that they're important because I've not made people feel important before.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever somebody's in my life and they're like, "Hey, do this podcast with me," or "Hey, I'm having a hard time with suicidal ideation," or whatever, I'm like, "Let's talk about it."
Mm-hmm.
Because like I want to be there as best of my abilities that I can be. Um, and that's just kind of one of my living amendments, to be there for people in the ways that I haven't been in the past. I can't change any of it. I have to live with being not a great friend, but I can move forward.
Mhm.
I'm not going to stay stuck in that thought. I'm just going to be like, oh, yeah, that was not really cool of me. But I'm going to be better. And consciously making that effort makes your little vibration go better. And so you attract people that are willing to work with you and
Mhm.
not people that are just going to have the reaction of when you're offering this communication and them being like, I don't want to talk about stuff. I just want you to do what I want you to do.
Uh-huh.
Um, that's a reaction that people have.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Um, sorry, I've had like a feedback in my headphones. That's why one of my ears is like
Oh no.
uncovered,
Oh.
but I've just been dealing with it.
Oh, you're good. I'm just trying to make sure.
But it cut off, so I was like, am I cut off?
Uh yeah, so I may have messed up a setting, but it's okay cuz
No, it's fine.
it's going to work. uh
But no, yeah, I think that making those living amendments is a really good way to go about not staying in that unhealed state, being able
mhm.
to unlearn, unpack, and relearn new habits of a way of being, you know?
Mhm. And I liked how you said relearn cuz
Mhm.
you're actually
We
doing
can't leave
something.
nothing there.
Yeah, that's where a lot of trouble comes in my experience. And whenever you're saying making those living amends, do like with step work for the AA book, uh, for
Mhm.
example, a lot of that stuff is outward. Like your step 10 is keeping a daily inventory, but essentially what it's kind of saying is like, where did you mess up? What could have you done better? And like that's a good mindset. Don't get me wrong, but I think that there's missing just one little part. It's patting yourself
Mhm.
on the back for saying, "Hey, like I had this happen and I reacted in this way and old me would have done this." So,
Mhm.
one of the other things is making amends to other people. I've found that I have to make amends to myself just as much. And I think a lot of people don't
Yeah.
actually do that. And I think it's hard to do too. And I think that's why people don't do it to themselves because either it's from I don't deserve it or they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to accept it and they don't know how to give it to themselves. Either because they weren't taught, they were never even aware that, ooh, I can forgive myself. I can love myself. I can receive
Mhm.
compliments. I can receive constructive criticism, stuff like that. But forgiveness is, especially self forgiveness, is big. It is for me. But I think that's what holds some people in a state that they don't want to be in and they don't know how to get out. Uh, but,
So, small example,
uh huh,
I wanted to do ballet when I was a kid.
uh huh.
I was impoverished. We did not have money for that. Um, and so instead of giving me like a sport or something to do, I was given hot Cheetos. I love hot Cheetos.
Uh huh.
They're unfortunately like a cigarette to me though.
Oh.
I had such an unhealthy way of eating because I was like, I feel bad. I'm gonna go get a bag of chips. Um, there is a red dye number 4 in there or 40, whatever,
Uh huh.
and it is so awful for people like me with ADHD. It
Is it?
makes me buzz. It makes me, yes.
Huh.
That's a whole thing. Like all of the dyes and everything, I tend to stay away from because of how it affects us physically. Especially if you eat a whole bag of chips like I do instead of having the recommended serving size.
What's your
Um,
recommendation?
so I've had like this unhealthy way of eating for years and years and years.
Uh-huh.
And now, like, I hardly even eat meat unless I can do like my little ritual thing of like
Just saying
thanking
thank
the
you.
meat and blah, blah, blah. But like, I had to forgive myself for punishing myself
Mm.
for feeling. And now I have a better grasp of a relationship with food and feeling grateful that I get to eat and that like Mother Nature provides like these beautiful vegetables and it's just like so mind-boggling because you can have like this whole plethora of things that she just provides
Mhm.
naturally and it has like everything that you need. And
Yep.
if you're allergic to one of these other things, something else has to have it, you know? And
True.
so restructuring my relationship with food and forgiving myself for being so awful to my body for years.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with substances. Like I had one substance that I really, really liked for like 3 years, and I didn't even know that it was a problem until it was a problem. And then I got pregnant, and I was like, oh, that was a really big problem.
Oh no.
So, forgiving myself for being neglectful to my body for like that was a really big part of my spiritual growth.
Mm-hmm. So what do you hear that? That was a weird little
Hmm.
buzz. So what would some advice be for those that are having a hard time forgiving themselves or someone that is stuck in a place and they want to get out or they're just feeling angry all the time, like essentially
Recognize it.
recognize it.
Hmm.
Okay.
That's like literally the first step, like recognizing that there is an issue and going from there is up to them. So I specialize as a Reiki practitioner in helping people going from like seeing something like this close and being like, this doesn't even make sense. This is fucking stupid. Sorry. To like where they can back up and be like, oh, that's a picture. That's a whole thing. Um, and so that whenever they want to move forward, it is not this daunting task because they can realize where they actually are, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Oh.
So having the options laid out is like where I like to be because some of my colleagues are like future, this is gonna happen and all of that. I'm like, no, we need to figure out what's going on right now. But that's just like my specialty.
Mhm.
So
Well, I think you're doing an amazing job because we need more people like you in this world. So,
thanks. And I love waking people up. I love what I do. It is hard and it is taxing physically, spiritually, emotionally.
hmm,
But as long as I take care of myself and my ecosystem, I can still do that.
yep. And it's
Mhm.
funny that little test I was doing earlier. I was talking about be genuine, honest, true, and loving to yourself, and first and foremost, and your sanity and everything else will follow. Uh,
Yeah.
so,
Sorry, my witch's bells.
uh, but man, like I am excited to see what you do in the future, and you are an amazing friend. So I want to congratulate you on doing those amends of sorts, or living amends if you so want it to be
Mhm.
put that way. And I can't thank you enough. And I know that all the listeners are going to get some great little snippets and just seeds planted in them. And You may never know.
Mhm.
I may never know. But who knows? Maybe, just maybe, there's going to be a few people out there that change the whole world as a whole, as a collective, because of this conversation.
This one itty bitty seed that just got planted.
Yeah. Uh, but that is all the time we got, and I don't want to hold you up because I know you got to go translate for a class. I think you said.
Yeah, yeah. That's this lady I know does sound healing, and she speaks
Oh.
light language. And when she does, I understand what she's saying.
Uh huh.
So I'm gonna go translate for funsies.
Fair enough. That sounds like it's going to be fun, and
Yeah.
uh, again, I'm going to start something separate that's not just all mental stuff. So I would love
Hmm.
to have you on more regularly, either on that one or this one as well, because everything can essentially be tied back to self and mental health, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But but again, thank you very, very much, Carly. It has been an amazing interview and just questionnaire. I don't even know if this would be considered an interview. I don't know, but I had fun.
It was a really nice conversation, in my opinion.
There we go.